Zoe, come look. Come see her gift. Look at all the pretties my little girl is giving me! Kiss me, lover!
What the hell? Get to the garage! Get some rope!
Marguerite Baker is one of the main antagonists that Ethan Winters will encounter during his adventures in the game Resident Evil 7 BioHazard. The matriarch of the Baker family, Marguerite used to be a kindly woman who lived in the swamplands of Dulvey, Louisiana, with her loving husband Jack Baker and her children Zoe and Lucas. However, that would all change in 2014. When the Baker family would get an unexpected guest in the form of a little girl named Evelyn. A guest who would set the family on a completely unwanted, yet irreversible life path.
She loves you. She wants us to be a family, goddammit. You! All you have to do is accept her fucking gift!
The story of Marguerite as we know it begins with her life in Dulvey. While we don't know that much about Marguerite, before Mia and Evelyn arrived on the scene, we do know that she seemed to be quite the typical wife and mother in the family's simple lives, spending a large part of her day preparing the family's evening meals and running into town to pick up whatever they needed from the local stores. Her kind nature and caring demeanor matching that of her husband, and together they lived a modest yet peaceful life amid the swamps of Louisiana. Unfortunately, this peaceful existence that the family had carved out for themselves would come to a crashing halt in October of 2014, when a massive hurricane would hit the surrounding communities of Dulvey. After the storm had subsided, Marguerite's son Lucas and husband Jack would go to investigate the damage that it had done to their property, and during that search, would find something unbelievable had washed up into the bayous of their land. Lucas had found a huge tanker that had washed up very near the Baker family's estate, and when he got his father to investigate, he found two survivors amid the wreckage, a woman named Mia Winters and a little girl named Evelyn. Of course, being the kind people that they were, Jack and Marguerite took in the despondent duo, letting the woman rest in their daughter's trailer and placing the little girl in their son's old bedroom. Unfortunately, however, this would be their final act of kindness, as when the little girl awoke, she would completely alter the course of this once happy wetland family.
All right, little girl, let's get you cleaned up.
They're mine now.
What?
Once Evelyn had awoken, she quickly got to work using her mold to infect the Bakers and turn them into the family that she'd always wanted, Marguerite being her first victim. Evelyn had given Marguerite a gift which allowed the Baker matron to control and even seemingly produce insects from inside of her body. A gift which she then used to attack her own daughter Zoe. However, luckily for Zoe, Evelyn's hold on the freshly infected Marguerite's mind was incomplete, and she managed to fight back against the young girl's influence, attempting to help her daughter escape this new hell that was quickly destroying everything in her life. Unfortunately, however, Zoe's escape would fail, and the entire family would become puppets of this bioweapon masquerading as a young child. Over the course of the next few weeks, the Marguerite that had once been such a kind and loving woman slowly drifted away. The mold that now coursed through her bodies, not allowing her to sleep, causing her to feel nauseous at all times, even making her see things, hear things, and somehow she knew that it was all because of that little girl. Just 6 days after Evelyn's arrival, Marguerite went to visit the local doctor, trying to find out what was happening to her and how to stop it. But by the time the doctor had had the time to examine the findings, it was too late. Marguerite's mind had been engulfed by Evelyn's influence, becoming a perversion of what she used to be, twisted into a sadistic psychopath who lived only for the love of her family and the wishes of Evelyn.
We open our home. We open our hearts. And what do you do?
For the next 3 years, Evelyn's mold would continue to warp Marguerite's mind. She still performed her typical tasks, such as cooking, but instead of the traditional dishes, the menu became much less appetizing, with human meat being a permanent fixture once Evelyn had given the bakers the orders to grow the family. A task which, in their current conditions, they were all too happy to oblige. Marguerite, Jack, and her son Lucas began abducting tourists and vagrants around the area, turning many of them into molded monstrosities and killing the others in often brutal and horrific ways. From Evelyn's arrival in October of 2014 to January of 2016, the Bakers abducted over 20 people from the surrounding areas of Dulvey. However, despite these atrocities that Evelyn was influencing her to commit, shreds of the person that Marguerite used to be still shone through her evil actions. The hospitality that she had once prided herself on still barely visible as she cared for those who were going to be members of the family. This hospitality had its limits, however, and those limits were quite low, even with her own daughter, Zoe. Unlike the other members of the family, Evelyn had minimal influence over the Baker's biological daughter, Zoe still keeping much of her personality intact and being able to recognize the atrocities that her family were committing. Zoe would often attempt to escape, and even aid those who had been captured, an action which brought about the wrath of the rest of the family, in particular, the wrath of her mother, Marguerite. Shortly after Marguerite had been infected with Evelyn's mold, the child had given her a present which, in her deranged and fanatical state, she cherished above all else, even above Zoe. And once Zoe found out that this present may be able to cure her of Evelyn's mold, she began attempting to take it, an action which brought about the full scorn of Marguerite.
I told you to stay out of here!
Marguerite and her family's depraved rule over the swamps of Dulvey continued for several years, racking up quite a body count as they attempted to expand their ranks. However, in July of 2017, an unexpected guest would make his way to the Baker's home. Ethan Winters, the estranged husband of the woman that Jack had rescued from the tanker along with Evelyn, had received a message from his missing wife, telling him to come to the Baker farm in Dulvey, Louisiana, to rescue her. Once he arrived, however, he found that things were quite a bit more complex than he could have ever imagined. Mia was somehow a part of this family, and Evelyn had set her sights on making him a member as well. She instructed the Bakers to abduct Ethan so that he would become her new father, and so Marguerite and the rest of the family set out to make it so. Throughout the course of Ethan's time in the swamps of Dulvey, Marguerite attempts to follow the wishes of Evelyn, first attempting to welcome and infect Ethan through her cooking before getting offended that he won't eat the food that she's worked so hard to make. But not only does she attempt to bring Ethan into the family, but also to make Mia appreciate all the things that Evelyn has done for her. Marguerite's delusional mind frame not being able to comprehend why these people are refusing to accept the generous gift that Evelyn is giving them. She eventually manages to find and capture the escaped Mia, but it wouldn't be long before another ungrateful soul would enter the old house. Ethan had momentarily defeated Marguerite's husband, Jack, and had come in search of a cure to the mold that was controlling Mia. Part of this cure being none other than the present that Evelyn had given Marguerite shortly after her arrival. The present that Marguerite cherished even above her own daughter, a present that she wasn't going to let this ungrateful little newcomer take away from her without a fight. Marguerite Baker, like most of the Baker family, is a victim of her own kind intentions, bringing this little child into her home and being rewarded with the utter destruction of her family and her mind, becoming so enthralled to Evelyn that she would enshrine her present and cherish it even more than her own daughter. And as Marguerite would attempt to uphold this devotion to her adopted daughter, she would finally embody the monster that Evelyn had made her all those years ago.
Now with me, we're gonna settle this!